Hello dear students, I hope you all are doing well. Okay, let's start today's topic, and the topic is measures to overcome barriers in communication. If you remember in my last lecture, which was based on the first chapter, that was barriers in communication. In that chapter we discuss about what are the obstacles in an effective communication. What are the problems that may cause a communication go wrong? All right, so we discuss about the barriers in communication. Now in this topic we will discuss about all those methods or measures that we can opt to overcome those barriers in communication. Okay, the first method that we can use is the use of simple language. So we can use a simple language, means the language that we are using to communicate with other people should be very simple and understandable. If you include ambiguous words or technical words called jargons, if you include jargons or technical words or ambiguous word, then the communication will not go well. Therefore, when you communicate, the language that you use for the communication should be simple, so that the receiver must understand this. Second, reduction and elimination of noise levels. We discuss about the physical barrier. The physical barriers means all factors, external factors that may affect the communication. It may be a physical barrier. It may be a noise. It is called a noise also. So noise will affect your communication very badly. Like suppose if you are communicating to someone else, and then there is a lot of noise around, and you are not able to say whatever you want to say, or you are not able to communicate your message properly, then obviously this is your message will not be passed to the receiver. Therefore, your first priority should be to remove the noise, or to find a place where you can communicate without external interruptions. Okay, so second measure that you can take is reduction and elimination of noise levels. Third, and one of the most important feature in communication, is called active listening. Now this is a huge topic that we should discuss someday, like how to be a good listener. We all have, you are hearing my voice, but how many of you are understanding it and listening carefully, and then understanding it, and are able to comprehend it? That is a different thing. So listening actively is very important thing. That whatever the speaker says to you, you listen it very attentively, and you try to comprehend what the speaker wants to say directly or indirectly. Because sometimes we have to observe the expressions of the speaker, his or her body language, or the words somebody is using, to understand the message very carefully. So listening is very important. Before you start speaking, you should learn how to listen. So listening is an art. You don't get it by default. There are very few people in the world, you can say 1 in 100, who is a good listener. and rest of them are, they are not a good listener. They may hear what you say, but they are not a good listener. So good listening or active listening is a, you can say it's a virtue. That is a reason why the creation has blessed us with one mouth and two ears. So before we speak, we should learn to listen. So someday, when school will open, we will talk about this active listening in details, and what measures we can take to become an active listener. But till that time, you can practice two things. The first is, when somebody speaks to you, so face the speaker. See, if you are talking to someone else, and you are looking away, or if somebody else is talking to you and you are looking away, then it will not establish a good communication. So whenever a speaker someone speaks to you, face to the speaker, look into the eyes, make eye contact with the speaker, and then try to observe what speaker is trying to say, verbally and non-verbally. Because sometime in communication, the speaker may say something else, but he or she meant something different. So if you listen carefully and understand what this person is trying to say or convey the message, the communication will go well, and our relationships among with the people will be nourished, will make good relations with people. So active listening is extremely important. Next could be emotional state. Okay, during a communication, one should make effective use of body language. He or she should not show their emotions while communication, as the receiver might misinterpret the message being delivered. If you are talking to someone, and if you show that you are not interested, or if you show that you are in a bad mood, so that communication will not go well. So when you are listening to somebody, or when there is a communication between two people, just be there, leaving your emotional state aside. Because if you bring your emotions between, or your moods in between the communication, that might disturb the process of communication. So we can keep our emotions aside, and then we can speak and listen carefully, so that our message is conveyed properly. Next, give constructive feedback. Now, when we talk, or when we when we communicate, so if you remember, in the cycle of communication, feedback was the last point, which means that feedback is sent by receiver to the sender, whether how how much extent the message has been understood. So giving feedback, maybe we can say a direct feedback to the speaker, is important for the good communication. But you should avoid giving negative feedback. Okay, you can criticize criticize anything, or you can be you can play a role of a positive critic when there is a communication, uh, without hurting the speaker or the other person. So these feedbacks, if you give a positive feedback, or even if you criticize but positively, then the communication will go well. Next measure that we can use is proper media selection. Sorry. So if you remember, one of the part, or constituent of the element of the communication cycle was channel. So channel is the media, the medium through which your message is conveyed. It could be a conventional letter or an email, SMS, a phone call, or a face-to-face conversation, or video conferencing, or a WhatsApp message, whatever you said. So choosing a proper channel is important. If you send, okay, if I already told you that if a message is through email, and if you send it through conventional mail or through the SMS, will not have an impact. If something is to be said face to face and you send it through email, then it will not have that impact, that expected impact. So the important thing is that when you communicate, you should think before communicating that what is the most appropriate, what will be the most appropriate media through which or by which you have to communicate. So before communicating, choose how, by which media you will communicate. If you have to convey something to your parents or something to your friends, choose the media, choose the proper channel by which you will communicate to them. Okay, so these were the points that we can take care of before communication, or to make a communication effective, we can choose these things, or we can measure, we can consider these points before communicating. Okay, so these were the measures to overcome the barriers in communication. Now let's move to the next topic, and next topic is last topic of this chapter, and it is important one, called 7 C's of effective communication. So there are 7 points, or 7 important points that should be considered before communication, before starting a communication, or before communicating anything to someone else. And these are very popular in business world or among entrepreneurs. 7 C's of communication. First is called completeness. Before you convey a message, you should know, and you should figure out that whether your message is complete or not. Okay, keeping all the facts in mind, let's go with the definition. The communication must be complete. Okay, it should convey all facts required by the audience. So any half message will not go well. If you send something without facts, then it is again not go well. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver's mindset and convey the message accordingly. So you should make your message complete. Before making a message, you should also consider that who are your audiences, who are going to receive your message. Suppose if you want to convey something to small kids, and you make it you make it very much complicated, that will not be conveyed. Or if you are sending the or conveying a message to somebody who is illiterate, but you are conveying through very hard language or very complicated language, it will not be completed, it will not go well. So when you compose a message, you should understand that the message that you send is complete, and information sent properly. Sorry, a disturbance. Now next is called conciseness. So conciseness means wordiness. If you if you are communicating to someone else, so make your message with the minimum words. So these minimum words, make your message with the minimum words. Okay. If you send a message, so try to make the message with the minimum words required. That is called conciseness. Next, called consideration. So consideration implies stepping into the shoes of others. Effective communication must take the audience into consideration. So I already told in the first point that you consider the audience before composing a message or before starting a communication. That what should be the media, like we discussed in the measures to overcome barriers in communication. So you should consider the audience, okay, their viewpoints, requirement, emotions, as well as problems. Ensure that the self-respect of the audience is maintained and their emotions are not at harm. Modify your words in message to suit the audience needs while making your message complete. So when we communicate, it's not all about what we want to say. I told communication means that what we want to communicate, what we want to convey, is conveyed properly to the audience. So when we want to say something, so we should also consider the audience. Okay. Their interest, their self-respect, their emotions, okay, their state of mind can be considered before communicating to other people. Next point, called these concreteness and clarity are almost similar things. Clarity. Clear or plain language is characterized by explicitness, short sentence, and concrete words. So when you say something or when you write something, that should be clear. There should be clarity in your statements, what you want to say or what you want to convey. Fuzzy language is absolutely forbidden, as are formal language and cliche expressions. So when you are conveying something formally, so in those cases a fuzzy language is totally prohibited or forbidden. So there should be clarity and concreteness in the communication. Okay, so your message should be clear and concrete, and you should avoid the fuzzy language. Courtesy. Courtesy in the message implies the message should show the sender's expressions as well as should respect the receiver. If you send a message which is very harsh, or maybe which demean the audience, so which is not good. So the message that you send should be courteous without harming the emotions of the receiver. The sender of the message should be sincerely polite, judicious, reflective, and enthusiastic. And the last one is called correctness. So correctness in communication is very important, which implies that your message that you have composed is grammatically error free. There are no grammatical errors in the communication, and obviously there should be no spelling mistake, and also there should not be ambiguous word, or the word that you choose to communicate should be you should choose the good words. You should have a good vocabulary to communicate your message. Okay, so these were the 7 C's of communication. And with time we'll practice all of them, and you should start practicing all of them in your daily life, whether you communicate with your parents or with your teachers or with your friends. Okay, so this was the end of the first chapter. After this we are going to start the chapter called self management skills, and two activities of this new chapter I've already given to you, so we'll continue with other topics of that chapter. All right, till then, see you. Take care.